It was 2:47 a.m. on August 10, 2023, when Surrey police in southeast England received a call from Islamabad airport in Pakistan. "I killed my daughter," the man said on the phone in tears. "I didn't mean to kill her, but I beat her badly." He told the police dispatcher that his intention was simply to punish her. "I'm a cruel father," he added. The man on the phone was Sara Sharif. Home Sara. Sharif was born on January 11, 2013, at Wexham Park Hospital in Slough. Her father had moved to the UK from Pakistan to study. He married Sara's mother, Olga Domin, who was Polish and spoke little English, in Woking in 2009. Even before Sara was born, the family was already known to the police and child welfare services. Records show that the police were involved 4 times between 2010 and 2012. Surrey County Council's Child Welfare Service had been in contact with them since 2010, while the family court hearings in Surrey began shortly before Sara was born. This was due to growing concerns about neglect and violence in the family, including against one of Sara's brothers, referred to in court as Z. In 2010, Zeed was found alone in a shop aged just 3. Later that year, Sharif was arrested for assaulting Domin. During the fight, he hit Zeed, leaving a handprint on the child's back. In 2011, Zeed told teachers that "Daddy hit me," and the following year he told them that "Mummy hit me." The child was found with a burn mark and was again found alone in public, this time in Woking town centre, around half a mile from the family home. Social workers noted unexplained injuries on Zed and another of Sara's siblings, who the court referred to as U. There had been other allegations of abuse against the children before Sara was born, all of which were denied. Then there was an incident in 2013 when Zed was burned by an iron. When social workers visited the family home, they found no light bulbs or bedding in the children's bedrooms. This led to Sara being placed under a protection order shortly after her birth. This gave the local authority legal responsibility for Sara and her 2 siblings, and social workers made frequent visits to the family home. She was first placed into foster care for a short period in November 2014, when she was almost 2, after Zeed complained of being bitten very hard by Domin and pinched and punched by Sharif. Carers noticed what appeared to be cigarette burns on both Sara and U. Domin and Sharif said they were chicken pox marks. In 2015, during the custody hearing, Domin accused Sharif of beating her and the children and of controlling and violent behavior. These allegations were never investigated in court, but Sharif agreed to attend a domestic violence course. False imprisonment Surrey police were also aware of previous allegations of violence against Sharif. 2 ex-girlfriends had accused him of false imprisonment in 2007 and 2009. After an initial period in foster care, Sara, who was not yet 2 years old, returned home with U in late 2014. But Zeed never returned to live with the family, remaining in foster care. The following year, Sara spent another brief period in foster care, this time when her mother left the home citing domestic violence. When her parents formally separated, she began living with her mother, initially in a women's shelter. Sharif was only allowed supervised contact with her. During her murder trial, the jury heard testimony from one of the social workers involved in Sara's case. In his notes, he recorded that when Sharif approached Sara during a session, she screamed at him to go away. He also noted that U said Sharif hit Mommy in the mouth and made her bleed. Before Sharif split from Sara's mother, he met another woman, Bainash Batul, who was a client of his taxi company. For the next few years, Sara continued to live with her mother, and things seemed to have calmed down. But around Easter 2019, Sharif said Sara told him that Domin had been violent towards her. Family court documents recorded how Sara claimed her mother had tried to drown her and burn her with a lighter. She also said her mother had slapped her, pinched her, and pulled her hair. Sharif recorded some of the allegations on video. It is unclear whether he had encouraged Sara. For the second time since Sara's birth, social services got involved, this time to assess who she should live with. Despite Sharif's previous history of violence, a social worker recommended that Sara and you move back in with him. In October 2019, Guildford Family Court agreed that Sara should return to live with her father and Batul, her new stepmother. The judge who made the decision was the same one who had attended the hearings from 2013 to 2015 and was aware of all the previous allegations. Domin, who accepted the agreement, was supposed to have 2 hours of contact with her daughter every Saturday, supervised by Batul. This agreement was later broken, ending Sara's contact with her mother. By this time, Sharif and Batul were living in a small ground-floor flat in West Byfleet, and Sara had started attending St. Mary's Primary School. But it was clear to residents of the street that things were not good in the house. An upstairs neighbor, Rebecca Spencer, described the family as a nightmare. She told the court that she could hear banging and hysterical screaming. On one occasion, when the situation reached a boiling point, she told jurors she went to the flat to ask if everything was okay. Batul told her, "Yes, yes," before slamming the door in my face. Another neighbor, Chloe Redwin, told the court she heard frequent slapping and shouting, as well as Batul's swearing. She said the only time it was quiet was when they went on holiday. The court heard that none of the neighbors were concerned enough to call the police or social services. In December 2020, Batul sent one of her sisters, Kandila Sabuhi, some photos of Sara with severe bruising on her arms and face. Over the next 2 years, she sent frequent messages to her sisters about Sharif beating Sara, leaving her covered in bruises and unable to walk. She alleged that one night Sharif kept Sara up all night doing sit-ups. In one message, she said she had to push Sharif to save Sara. Neither Batul nor her sisters called the police or social services. Batul told her family that Sara was being bullied at school. Her teacher, Helen Simmons, recalled that Sara didn't have a great time making friends, but said she loved being on stage, singing and performing. That was her happy place. Sara also enjoyed being a member of the Cool Carers Club for children taking on more responsibility at home. The school's head teacher, Jackie Chambers, remembered Sara as an absolute chatterbox who dreamed of appearing on talent show The X Factor. "We will always remember her as this very confident, very bubbly little girl, full of energy and life. She had a big, vibrant personality. She would talk her head off to anyone who would listen." Concerns for Sara grew in June 2022 when she was taken out of school to be homeschooled. It was a cause for concern because it happened so unexpectedly, Simmons said during the trial. Sara returned for the new academic year in September. It was around this time that Sara began wearing a hijab. In a home video from July 2022, which was shown to the jury, Sharif is seen slapping Sara 4 times in the face. Despite the hijab covering much of her head, in March 2023, Simmons noticed injuries to Sara's face. First, on March 10th, she saw a bruise on the underside of her chin and another on her cheek. "They didn't look fresh," she said. Sara said she had fallen on roller skates, but her account seemed inconsistent. She told a friend at school that she had fallen off her bike. The school was so concerned that it referred the incident to social services. For the third time, Surrey County Council's Child Welfare Board became involved in Sara's case. After a 6-day investigation, the board informed the school that no further action would be taken, but asked the school to monitor the situation. This was despite the council being aware of the long history of reports of violence in the family and the involvement of the police since 2010. The school also recorded that Batul had been seen swearing very explicitly and abusively in Punjabi while leaving school, the court heard. On 28th March, Sara arrived at school with another bruise. Batul told Simmons that the injury had been caused by a pen. All of this was again meticulously recorded by the school. The following month, the family finally moved from their small two-bedroom flat on a council estate in West Byfleet to a larger semi-detached house in Woking, also owned by Surrey County Council. Sara's uncle Faisal Malik had been living with the family for about 4 months and had also moved into the new house. From that point on, Sara never returned to school. Sharif wrote a cursory email to St. Mary's Primary School saying that his daughter was being homeschooled again. Any chance the school had of monitoring Sara was long gone. Judy Lozeron lived next door to the Sharifs in Woking. She would often watch Sara in the garden, quietly tending to the family's baby, while the other children played. "She seemed very attached to the baby," she said, but she never saw any signs of injury and never heard any screaming or arguing from the house next door. The only thing she noticed was Sara's behavior. "I didn't see her smile, and I think that's odd, but there was no reason to suspect anything else." On May 25th, another message from Batul about Sara to her sister read, "He beat her badly. Her oxygen levels have dropped so low she's having trouble staying awake. She's breathing very, very fast." As the summer wore on, Sara's torture intensified, largely out of sight or hearing of her neighbors. In her final weeks, she was bitten, branded on her buttocks, and hooded in plastic bags held together with duct tape. Sharif admitted beating her with a cricket bat and a white metal beam from a high chair. He also hit her over the head with a mobile phone. But the bite marks on her body did not match Sharif's teeth, the court was told. He denied burning Sara with an iron. Sara had started vomiting and was wearing a diaper because she was soiling herself. In her final weeks, she suffered at least 25 fractures and a traumatic brain injury. She was never taken to hospital. One afternoon in early August, Fiona Mellon, whose back garden overlooked the Sharif's home, heard a high-pitched scream that was suddenly cut off. On Sunday, 6th August 2023, Sara was filmed by Batul dancing in front of the TV, apparently fine. Later that day, the stepmother's lawyer said her father had beaten her again. On Tuesday, August 8th, Sara's body could not take any more, and she began to deteriorate visibly. Sharif decided she was faking it and hit her in the stomach again with the metal beam. Later that evening, Yu sent the following message to a friend. "Hello. Urgent. My sister just passed away." When Sara died, it was the end of a life in which violence had become completely normalized, the prosecution said during the trial. Social services had been involved with the family on and off for 13 years. Her father had been arrested at least 3 times for violence against adults, and her school had raised concerns about bruising. This raises questions about whether her death could have been prevented. A key question is whether there should be a better way to monitor students about whom there are concerns when they are removed from school. Annie Hudson, who chairs the Child Protection Practice Review Panel for England, said vulnerable children could be at greater risk when they are removed from school. They are out of sight, they are not getting the protective care that comes with being at school, and all that offers, she added. Immediately after Sara's death, Surrey County Council commissioned a rapid review of its involvement in her case. This led to a more detailed review of the local Child Protection Service, which is now looking at the role of Surrey Police, St. Mary's School, the NHS, and Surrey County Council. The review will look into the Child Welfare Service's on and off involvement with Sara, which began before she was born. It will also assess a 6-day investigation into bruises observed by Sara's teacher 5 months before her death. That investigation resulted in no action being taken by the county council against the parents, despite their knowledge of Sharif's history of violence. There was only a suggestion that the school monitor Sara, but the teachers were unable to do so after Sara was removed from the school. Rachel Wardell, Surrey County Council's Chief Executive for Children, Families and Further Education, said, "We are steadfast in our commitment to safeguarding children and are determined to play a full and active role in the upcoming review with partner agencies to fully understand the wider circumstances surrounding Sara's tragic death." She said the full picture would only become clear once the independent review was complete. Sara's death is incredibly upsetting, and we share the profound horror at the horrific details that emerged during the trial. We cannot begin to comprehend the suffering that poor Sara endured. A polka-dotted bench now stands in the playground of Sara's old school. It bears a sign that reads, "Sara's Friends Bench." Chambers, the school's headmistress, said Sara was a very special little girl. "It's hard to put it into words, really," she added. "I don't think I've ever felt such sadness. Beaten, burned and bitten." When Sara's father's call from Pakistan ended, PC George van der Wart was knocking on the door of the Sharif family home in Woking. In a room at the top of the stairs, he found the body of Sharif's daughter Sara on the bottom bunk bed, tucked under the covers. Next to her pillow was a note in Sharif's handwriting saying he had beaten and killed her. "I lost my mind," he wrote. A post-mortem examination showed that Sara had died from a series of injuries and neglect. Her body was covered in bruises, she had a head injury, human bite marks, and several broken bones. She had been burned by a household iron. A search of the house and garden revealed, among other things, homemade hoods made from plastic bags and sticky tape, and a cricket bat covered in Sara's blood. It was a brutal end to the life of a girl remembered by her former teacher as lively, bold, and bubbly, whose only refuge of happiness was being on stage. Sara loved to play the guitar and dreamed of appearing on the British talent show X Factor. Her favorite color was pink, and her favorite food was chicken biryani. Trial. A jury at the Central Criminal Court, known as the Old Bailey in London, has now found Sharif and his wife, Baynash Batul, guilty of murder. The 8-week trial has painted a picture of a young woman who was let down by the people closest to her, the people she should have been able to trust. Sara was often pictured smiling in photographs, but at home she was being beaten, burned and bitten. Judge John Kavanagh told the court, "The level of cruelty involved is almost inconceivable." He told Batul, "You did not oppose Irfan Sharif's attacks. You encouraged them." Sharif initially claimed Batul was responsible for Sara's death, telling the jury he had made a false confession to protect his wife. However, in a dramatic twist during cross-examination, Sharif later took full responsibility for his daughter's death. Sharif, Batul and Malik fled to Islamabad, Pakistan, with Sara's 5 siblings on August 9, 2023, the day before her body was found. One of the most disturbing moments of the trial was when a video of the girl dancing 2 days before she was murdered was shown. "It's devastating to watch," prosecutor William Emlyn Jones told the jury after showing the footage. "At first glance, it looked like a home video filmed in a home like any other. Sara was seen dancing in front of the television, but upon closer inspection, it was possible to see that the girl was missing a small part of her finger and had a deep scratch on her nose. Under English law, those sentenced to life imprisonment can be considered for parole. Therefore, the judge is required to set a minimum period before the cases are assessed. In Sharif's case, he will have to spend at least 40 years behind bars. Batul, on the other hand, will serve at least 33 years in prison.